So why is it that this is interesting and this is boring? The answer is conflict, or complete lack of conflict. Now, there are different kinds of conflict in stories, and each one is written differently. This is conflict. So is this. So is this. These are all things that writers handle in different ways. Why? Because they all have different amounts of dialogue and different amounts of visual information. So, really quickly, this is internal conflict, this is interpersonal conflict, and this is external conflict. And it's really great when you can get more than one kind of conflict going at once. The main thing to remember is that different story forms handle conflict differently. Novels do internal conflict really well, because we can get inside people's heads. Plays and television, particularly soap operas, do interpersonal conflict well because they're driven by people talking to each other. Movies and games do external conflict well because they're so visual and you can interact with large things. And let's not forget the whole new dimension of internal conflict within the player that game choices have introduced. So, writers deal in conflict. So what? Why is this an important fact in the games industry? Because too many people still think that writers just deal in dialogue. Writers have in fact been dealing with visual storytelling for 100 years since the advent of movies, and that's why they can create a visual conflict between a business suit and a jungle floor, and still have people's attention 6 years later. And if you can string a conflict out like that in a TV series, or in a video game series, that's a pretty good trick. Conflict doesn't just come from writers, of course, not in the games industry. It comes primarily from a team of writers and designers. Designers supply the mechanics of conflict. Writers supply the meaning of conflict. So it's best to get the writer and the designer in a room together early on to form that two-headed beast that you need to be effective. Preferably before the concrete sets in the design. And if they're both talented, and they both get what the other one does, then you've got the potential for a great game, if you're into that kind of thing. Questions? I love questions.